People of Reddit, did you ever have a teacher mysteriously stop coming to school? What happened? My music teacher in 6th grade had a bad habit of cursing in front of the kids. They called me into the office to ask me some questions, and the next week he was gone. The replacement music teacher we got was the best teacher I've ever had and helped me recognize my musical talent and get me out of my shell. Choir teacher in 11th grade, though he taught 9 to 12, would curse, throw chairs at students, throw anything on his piano at students, and was a general liability for the school to get sued. He stayed on another 7 to 8 years, got money to hire an aide, and only got fired because his aide and him were procreating in the soundproof room. Their kid is cool. My niece has class with her. This all started in fall 2001 for context. My 1st grade teacher. She stopped showing up one day. We had substitute teachers for months, and then she finally came back to tell us all she'd been diagnosed with leukemia. She'd been going through chemotherapy, so she had no hair anymore, and that's the only thing I grasped. I didn't understand what cancer was at that point. She passed away that year. I don't know if it was just me who wasn't told or all the kids. The parents were all informed. My 4th grade teacher never came back after Christmas vacation. He was a very sweet old man and looked just the way you would imagine a 75-year-old cowboy to look like. He was very cheerful and a great teacher. Often he would make time for some very cool stories from his youth if we finished the lesson early, and sometimes he even would play the harmonica for us. Even parents loved him. Just one of the best teachers a 4th grader could ever desire. He passed away at some point during the holidays, but we weren't told. The official announcement was that he had retired and went back to his hometown or something like that. I only found out about the truth about a year after. I cried so hard. I just would have liked to say goodbye to such a great man. Hear his music one last time. He's a very happy memory from my childhood. 2nd, my 7th and 8th grade English teacher went to a vacation trip in Germany. She never showed up to school after that. I heard she got back with a friend and just stayed with him in Germany. I hope she's doing alright. She was such a sweet person. Went to a private Catholic high school run by nuns. 9th grade homeroom math teacher stopped showing up, and we had a bunch of substitute teachers until they found a permanent replacement. We managed to get the reason out of another teacher. She got pregnant out of wedlock and was fired. My sophomore year, we went through a couple of Spanish teachers. The first was a male that didn't even last 6 weeks. After a series of subs, we got a new teacher. She claimed to speak 10 languages, but didn't know how to teach. I spent Spanish class with my desk pushed against 3 others playing cards. Of course, not everyone kept to themselves. The teacher was an easy target for bullies. She lasted a few months of mean kids doing things like putting chalk dust in her drinks and I don't know what else, since I mostly kept to myself, and then she was gone. The school told us she left for health reason. Rumor had it that someone put glass cleaner or some other chemical in her coffee. Had a male teacher in 4th grade. He was super cool. He showed me lots of attention, turned me on to cool books, even promised to take me to the cinema. He disappeared. WO explanation. I was upset. Only years later did I consider that he was likely grooming me. He wasn't just a teacher, but the VP and general school admin as well. Man dipped out, and for the first little bit all we heard was that he was going in for surgery and would hopefully return quickly after a speedy recovery. Fast forward a few more weeks and we're hearing nothing, and honestly starting to imagine what really went down. In all reality, he beat his wife and kids, so yeah, he doesn't work there anymore. Yes, I can answer this. I was in the 8th standard, and we had an art professor. He was very huge, very intimidating man. He would only talk about drawing, painting, etc. and would generally be upset he hit 3 to 4 students throughout the year. This is in India, so it's kinda acceptable, or at least it was 15 years ago. Anyway, fast forward to a new year. Grade 9, we don't see him anymore. We don't see him for 2 years. There's terrible rumors going on anyway. After we passed school and time had passed, we had a sort of reunion. One of my friends happened to ask one of our very old nuns what happened to this teacher. Apparently, his son had fallen sick and died, and his wife committed suicide within 2 months of the summer. He became depressed, and he quit, and no one has heard of him ever since. I was a senior in high school and my school offered concurrent courses where we got high school and college credit. The instructor would be at our actual campus sometimes and others we did class over video to instructors. That year went Maya. Keep in mind they were actually college instructors who just volunteered to teach the concurrent high school class first 9 weeks into the semester. 5 people out of a 15-person class get an email explaining he has been let go from the college and won't be our instructor anymore. A few weeks later my mother who worked at my high school discovers via the admin that he didn't get fired. Also he technically didn't quit. He just sent out that email to a few of us and then quit showing up. Still don't know what became of him. Second guy replaced the one from above. Guy 2 was weird as all get out. He taught us for the rest of the semester and 2 weeks into the new one, he just disappeared one day. Turns out the college fired him for stalking a girl. Wasn't my teacher, but a teacher baseball coach in my school went home after baseball practice one day to find his house completely empty, his wife and 2 children gone. His wife took everything but his house and left him with the divorce papers. He resigned from his job the next day and moved somewhere. I don't know what happened to him or why his wife left. My science teacher is fairly old and he just stopped coming a week before a major exam, which was completely unlike him. We had subs for a week and were stressing because we couldn't ask him about anything. No one told us anything, even when we asked. The only rumor we got was that he has a heart attack or some other medical emergency. He shows up to school next week as if nothing happened, with his arm in a sling. He starts class by telling us our exam was pushed back by 3 days, and then begins class normally. When we asked him what had happened he said that I had a cardiac event and had a pacemaker put in, which was pretty cool. He then proceeds to teach, as if everything is normal. I taught high school. A few years ago I had a coworker that was fresh out of college, still loved to party, and I was pretty sure she was hungover every day. Students obviously loved to talk about her and find her Snapchat and things like that. So, there were lots of inappropriate rumors floating around. One time I overheard them saying she had told them all to face the front of the class so that she could change clothes in the back. She had a party to get to. Next thing I know, she has a sub and is living in a different state. Had a math teacher in HS that previously had worked entirely in high levels of research and had even had his work published. He got tired of the pressures of that so took an early retirement and came to teach algebra to a bunch of 16-year-olds. It took less than half a year before it was apparent he had no idea how to interact with other humans, let alone teenagers. One day he just stopped showing up. Turns out he had a full mental breakdown. He was a nice enough guy, but definitely cut out for a lab and not a classroom. When I was in high school, one of my teachers left in the middle of the school year, and we later found out my teacher's husband had been diagnosed with terminal cancer. She and her husband took all their savings and went to travel the world for the year that he had left, so he could say goodbye to the whole world. This thread just reminded me of it. I think when we found out it changed the way we all thought about what was important in life. What a great lesson to have when you're 17. While I was studying for a degree at Quinsigamond Community Colleges, I was considering a job as in public relations or as a technical writer. I had a sociology teacher who somehow disappeared. Unlike in high school, we didn't have to stay if the teacher doesn't show up after a while. It lasted for about a long, which got me and my classmates alarmed as we had work due. Finally, me and few others went to talk someone from the sociology department as this wasn't normal. It turns out the teacher had a stroke. To make for last time, we were given a project that counted as a final exam. I never did find out if the man ever recovered, which it was a shame as he was very nice and got along with us just fine. My psychology professor literally looked like the Lemony Snicket character played by Jim Carrey, Count Olaf. He was brilliant, dark, funny, charismatic, and inspiring. One day he didn't come in. It turns out he committed suicide. He was a big time smoker and had cancer. I felt like he was depressed the first day I met him. As a freshman in college, I could have even been wrong and just took it as me being cocky. I wasn't. I hope he's at peace now and resting soundly. This was about 11 years ago and I still think about him. My 11th grade functions teacher. She stopped coming to teach us for months and we had so many different substitute teachers, no one learned anything after. On the day of our final exam, our teacher finally came back and acted as if everything was normal. A classmate asked what happened, and the teacher said, "I had some chips and ended up in the hospital. Turns out she's allergic to salt." My 11th grade English teacher had a mental breakdown in class and started crying during full semester for seemingly no reason. It was in the middle of a teaching session and no one was harassing her. She then went on to tell us how her cheerleader friend killed herself by mixing liquors and falling in a river and drowning during high school. She left the room and she was gone for the rest of the year. I had a 3rd grade teacher that made us refer to him as Dr. H. He was an interesting teacher to say the least, gave his students nicknames, which were just puns out of their names. Mine was Roadkill. About halfway through the year, we get a substitute, which stayed teaching our class for the rest of the year. Nobody knew definitively what happened until about a few months ago when I googled his name. Turns out he was arrested for misconduct. One of my 10th grade teachers disappeared in the middle of the school year. The students and the teachers were all confused as to why, especially since he left all his stuff, phone, computer, etc. in the classroom. There were obviously rumors about what happened, that he died, got a better job, or his wife fought cancer. No one really ever learned the actual reason, but he was an amazing teacher, so I hope it was similar to one of the better rumors.